The scent of expensive perfume and seared steak was thick enough to choke on. Leo shoved his calloused, grease-stained hands into the pockets of his one good pair of jeans, feeling like a wrench thrown into a Swiss watch. La Luna Nera was the kind of place where the lighting cost more than his monthly rent, and the quiet hum of conversation felt like a judgment. He was here for a blind date, a setup by his well-meaning but hopelessly optimistic coworker, Maria. Her name is Chloe, Maria had gushed. She's sweet, works in marketing. Loves a man with honest hands. Leo had snorted. His hands were honest, all right, honestly covered in engine oil and the scars of 1,000 busted knuckles. He didn't belong here, and every crystal glass and stiff-backed waiter confirmed it. He scanned the room, his mechanic's eye for detail picking out the flaws most would miss, the slightly wobbly table leg 3 tables over, the forced smile of the sommelier, the nervous tap of a man's finger on a champagne flute. Then he saw her. Sitting alone at a table for 2 by the window, a single red rose in a slender vase. She was looking down at her phone, a curtain of dark, silken hair obscuring her face. Chloe. His heart hammered against his ribs, a piston misfiring. He took a steadying breath, the one he used before tackling a complex transmission repair, and walked over. Chloe, he said, his voice rougher than he intended in the hushed atmosphere. She looked up, and the air left his lungs. She wasn't just pretty, she was devastating. High cheekbones, full lips, and eyes the color of a stormy sea. But it was the expression in them that threw him, not the expected polite curiosity of a blind date, but a guarded, almost weary wariness. Yes? Her voice was cool, melodic, but with an undercurrent of steel. Leo. I'm Leo. Maria's friend. He gestured vaguely, feeling like a complete fool. A flicker of confusion crossed her features, so brief he almost missed it. Then it was gone, replaced by a smooth, practiced mask. Right. Please, sit. He slid into the plush velvet chair opposite her, its opulence feeling like an accusation. The silence stretched, taut and uncomfortable. He fumbled for a topic. So, Maria tells me you're in marketing. I am, she said, her gaze drifting past him to the city lights glittering beyond the window. Brand management, primarily for my father's corporation. Corporation? Wow. That's big. Smooth, Leo. Real smooth. I work with my hands. Mechanic. Auto repair. He expected to see the usual reaction, the slight wrinkling of the nose, the subtle shift away. But her eyes snapped back to his, and for the first time, they held a genuine spark of interest. Really? What do you specialize in? Mostly European imports. The finicky ones. BMWs, Mercedes, the occasional Aston Martin when someone's feeling brave and rich. He found himself relaxing slightly, talking about the one thing he understood. It's like a puzzle. All the parts have to talk to each other, and when they don't, you have to listen to what they're not saying. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. A mechanic and a philosopher. The waiter arrived, saving him from having to formulate a response to that. He handed them menus bound in leather thicker than his work boots. Leo opened his and his blood ran cold. There were no prices. In his world, if it didn't have a price tag, you couldn't afford it. He scanned the incomprehensible French terms. Tranche de foie gras, soufflé au fromage. It might as well have been written in ancient Sumerian. Order anything you like, Chloe said, watching him over the top of her menu. My treat. The words were a well-meant dagger to his pride. No, I got it. He pointed randomly at something. I'll have this. The, coco vin? The waiter gave a slight, condescending nod. An excellent choice, sir. And for the lady? The usual sea base? The usual, she confirmed, and the waiter retreated. The usual, huh? You're a regular, Leo said, trying to keep his tone light. This is my father's favorite restaurant. We have a standing reservation. She took a sip of water. So, Leo the mechanic. Do you enjoy it? Getting your hands dirty? It was the most anyone had ever asked him about his work. It wasn't just small talk, she seemed genuinely curious. He found himself telling her about the satisfaction of diagnosing a tricky electrical fault, the symphony of a perfectly tuned engine, the gratitude of a single mother when he fixed her old Corolla for cost. He talked, and she listened, her stormy eyes fixed on him, making him feel like the most fascinating man in the world. He barely noticed the food arrive. He took a bite of the coco vin. It was good, incredible even, but he would have traded it all for a greasy burger with this woman who listened like she was memorizing his every word. Halfway through the meal, a sharp, elegantly dressed woman stopped by their table. Chloe. I thought that was you. Slumming it tonight? Her eyes raked over Leo's denim jacket with undisguised contempt. Just having dinner, Isabel, Chloe said, her voice dropping 10 degrees. This is Leo. Isabel offered a limp, dismissive wave. Charmed. Well, don't let me interrupt. She glided away, leaving a trail of icy silence. Friend of yours? Leo asked, his jaw tight. An acquaintance. She believes my taste in companions has declined since the accident. The word hung in the air between them, heavy and final. Accident? Leo asked softly. Chloe looked out the window again, her profile a study in stoic beauty. It was 2 years ago. A car crash. My fiancé was driving. He walked away without a scratch. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. I wasn't so lucky. Leo's heart stopped. He followed her gaze downward, below the level of the crisp white tablecloth. For the first time, he noticed the subtle, sleek design of the chair she was sitting in. Leo's heart stopped. He followed her gaze downward, below the level of the crisp white tablecloth. For the first time, he noticed the subtle, sleek design of the chair she was sitting in. It wasn't a restaurant chair. It was a wheelchair. A state-of-the-art, titanium-framed masterpiece of engineering, but a wheelchair nonetheless. The pieces clicked into place with the brutal finality of a locking bolt. The wariness in her eyes. My treat. Isabel's cruel comment. She wasn't just dealing with a physical injury, she was navigating a world that now saw her as broken, an object of pity or scorn. He didn't know what to say. I'm sorry, felt cheap, inadequate. So he said the only honest thing he could. The guy who hit you, was he in a BMW? A 7 Series, maybe? Because I've seen the crumple zones on those things. They're designed to protect the driver at all costs. It's not an excuse, but it's an engineering reality. Chloe turned from the window, her eyes wide with shock. Then, to his astonishment, she let out a real, genuine laugh. It was a beautiful sound, like bells. You are the most bizarre man I have ever met. I tell you I'm paralyzed, and you diagnose the car that did it. He shrugged, a slow smile spreading across his face. It's what I know. The rest of the dinner was different. The guard was down. They talked about everything, her frustration with the constant pity, her fight to regain her independence, her secret love for terrible reality TV that her high society friends would mock. He told her about his dream of opening his own specialty garage, about growing up in foster care, about building his life with nothing but his own 2 hands. The connection was electric, undeniable. He felt like he'd found a missing part of his own engine. As the dessert plates were cleared, a large, imposing man in an impeccably tailored suit approached the table. He had silver hair, a face carved from granite, and an aura of power that made the air itself seem to stiffen. Chloe's posture went rigid. "Chloe," the man said, his voice a low rumble. He didn't even glance at Leo. "Your physical therapist is at the penthouse. It's time to go." "Father, this is Leo," Chloe said, her voice tight. "Leo, this is my father, Alistair Croft." Alistair Croft. The name hit Leo like a physical blow. Croft Industries. The aerospace and automotive giant. The man was a billionaire, a legend. His face was on the cover of Forbes magazine's Maria left in the break room. Finally, the CEO's cold, assessing eyes turned to Leo. They traveled from his scuffed work boots, up his jeans, to his jacket, and back to his face. The dismissal in that look was absolute. "I see," he said, the two words conveying a universe of disapproval. "Chloe, the car is waiting." Leo stood up, his chair scraping loudly. The spell was broken. The magical connection he'd felt was nothing but a fantasy. He was a mechanic who had accidentally sat at the table of a princess. It was, "Nice to meet you,"